Just because I poke fun at the stories I read and or fan art featured in my videos doesn't mean that anyone should harass the creators of anything featured in this show. Cyberbullying is a serious issue that damages people emotionally and psychologically, sometimes to the point of self-harm and or suicide. Please keep any and all criticism constructive and reasonable for all parties involved. Thank you.
Ominous unknown killers
and
Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. Jeff, these officers told me that you attacked three kids. I put the knife down. Today, Marty, tell them I was one to beat up those kids. On the hat, the sergeant tied. You don't expect me to go to some kid's party after ridiculous, but then he started to actually have fun. He said, "We have some unfinished business." "Hello, Jeff, is it?" he said. "We have some unfinished business." Jeff saw his bruised nose. "I think we're even. I beat the crap out of you, and you get my brother sent to JDC. Randy got an angry look in his eyes. "Oh no, I don't go for even. I go for winning. You may have kicked our asses that one day, but not today." As he said that, Randy rushed at Jeff. They both fell to the ground. Randy punched Jeff in the nose, and Jeff grabbed him by the ears and headbutted him. Jeff pushed Randy off him, and both rose to their feet. Kids were screaming and parents running out of the house. Troy and Keith both pulled guns out of their pockets. "No one interrupts or guts will fly," they said. Randy pulled a knife on Jeff and stabbed it into his shoulder. Jeff screamed and fell to his knees. Randy started kicking him in the face. After 3 kicks, Jeff grabs his foot and twists it, causing Randy to fall to the ground. Jeff stood up and walked towards the back door. Troy grabbed him. "Need some help?" He picks Jeff up by the back of the collar and throws him through the patio door. As Jeff tries to stand, he is kicked down to the ground. Randy repeatedly starts kicking Jeff until he starts to cough up blood. "Come on, Jeff, fight me." He picks up Jeff and throws him into the kitchen. Randy sees a bottle of vodka in the counter and smashes the glass over Jeff's head. "Fight!" He throws Jeff back into the living room. "Come on, Jeff, look at me." Jeff glances up, his face riddled with blood. "I was the one who got your brother sent to JDC, and now you're just gonna sit here and let him rot in there for a whole year. You should be ashamed." Jeff starts to get up. "Oh, finally, you stand and fight." Jeff is now to his feet, blood and vodka on his face. Once again he gets that strange feeling, the one in which he hasn't felt for a while. "Finally, he's up," says Randy as he runs to Jeff. That's when it happens. Something inside Jeff snaps. His psyche is destroyed. All rational thinking is gone. All he can do is kill. He grabs Randy and pile drives into the ground. He gets on top of him and punches him straight in the heart. The punch causes Randy's heart to stop. As Randy gasps for breath, Jeff hammers down on him. Punch after punch, blood gushes from Randy's body until he takes one final breath and dies. Everyone is looking at Jeff now. The parents, the crying kids, even Troy and Keith, although they easily break from their gaze to point their guns at Jeff. Jeff sees the guns train on him and runs for the stairs. As he runs, Troy and Keith let out fire on him, each shot missing. Jeff runs up the stairs. He hears Troy and Keith follow up behind. As they let out their final rounds of bullets, Jeff ducks into the bathroom. He grabs the towel rack and rips it off to the wall. Troy and Keith race in, knives ready. Troy swings his knife at Jeff, who backs away and bangs the towel rack into Troy's face. Troy goes down hard, and now all that's left is Keith. He's more agile than Troy, though, and ducks when Jeff swings the towel rack. He dropped the knife and grabbed Jeff by the neck. He pushed him into the wall. A thing of bleach fell down on top of him from the top shelf. It burnt both of them, and they started to scream. Jeff wiped his eyes as best as he could. He pulled back the towel rack and swung it straight into Keith's head. As he lay there, bleeding to death, he allowed an ominous smile. "What's so funny?" asked Jeff. Keith pulled out a lighter and switched it on. "What's funny," he said, "is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol." Jeff's eyes widened as Keith threw the lighter at him. As soon as the flame made contact with him, the flames ignited the alcohol in the vodka. While the alcohol burned him, the bleach bleached his skin. Jeff let out a terrible screech as he caught on fire. He tried to roll out of the fire, but it was no use. The alcohol had made him a walking inferno. He ran down the hall and fell down the stairs. Everybody started screaming as they saw Jeff, now a man on fire, dropped to the ground, nearly dead. The last thing Jeff saw was his mother and the other parents trying to extinguish the flame. That's when he passed out. When Jeff woke, he had a cast wrapped around his face. He couldn't see anything, but he felt a cast on his shoulders and stitches all over his body. He tried to stand up, but he realized that there was some tube in his arm, and when he tried to get up, it fell out, and the nurse rushed in. "I don't think you can get out of bed just yet," she said, as she put him back in his bed and reinserted the tube. Jeff sat there, with no vision, no idea of what his surroundings were. Finally, after hours, he heard his mother. "Honey, are you okay?" she asks. Jeff couldn't answer, though. His face was covered, and he was unable to speak. "Oh, honey, I have great news. After all the witnesses told the police what Randy confessed of trying to attack you, they decided to let Lou go." This made Jeff almost bolt up, stopping halfway, remembering the tube coming out of his arm. "They'll be out by tomorrow, and then you two will be able to be together again." Jeff's mother hugs Jeff and says her goodbyes. The next couple of weeks were those where Jeff was visited by his family. Then came the day where his bandages were to be removed. His family were all there to see it, and what he would look like. As the doctors unwrapped the bandages from Jeff's face, everyone was on the edge of their seats. They waited until the last bandage holding the cover over his face was almost removed. "Let's hope for the best," said the doctor. He quickly pulls the cloth, letting the rest fall from Jeff's face. Jeff's mother screams at the sight of his face. Lou and Jeff's dad stare awestruck at his face. What happened to my face?" Jeff said. He rushed out of bed and ran to the bathroom. He looked in the mirror and saw the cause of the distress. His face. It's horrible. His lips were burnt to a deep shade of red. His face was turned a pure white color, and his hair singed from brown to black. He slowly put his hand to his face, and it had sort of leathery feel to it now. He looked back at his family, then back at the mirror. "Jeff," said Lou. "It's not that bad." "Not that bad?" said Jeff. "It's perfect." His family were equally surprised. Jeff stared, laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed that his left eye and hand were twitching. Jeff, are you okay?" "Okay? I've never felt more happy." "Look at me. This face goes perfectly with me." He couldn't stop laughing. He stroked his face, feeling it, looking at it in the mirror. What caused this? Well, you may recall that when Jeff was fighting Randy, something in his mind, his sanity, snapped. Now he was left as a crazy killing machine. That is, his parents didn't know. "Doctor," said Jeff's mom, "is my son alright, in the head?" "Oh yes, this behavior is typical for patients that may have taken a very large amounts of painkillers. If his behavior doesn't change in a few weeks, bring him back here, and we'll give him a psychological test. Oh, thank you, Doctor. Jeff's mother went over to Jeff. Jeff, sweetie, it's time to go. Jeff looks away from the mirror, his face still formed into a crazy smile. Okay, Mommy. His mother took him by the shoulder and took him to get his clothes. This is what came in, said the lady at the desk. Jeff's mom looked down to see the black dress pants and white hoodie her son wore. Now they were clean of blood and now stitched together. Jeff's mother led him to his room and made him put his clothes on. Then they left, not knowing that this was their final day of life. Later that night, Jeff's mother woke to a sound coming from the bathroom. It sounded as if someone was crying. She slowly walked over to see what it was. When she looked into the bathroom, she saw a horrendous sight. Jeff had taken a knife and carved a smile into his cheeks. Jeff, what are you doing? asked his mother. Jeff looked over to his mother. I couldn't stop smiling, Mommy. It hurt after a while. Now, I can smile forever. Jeff's mother noticed his eyes, ringed in black. Jeff, your eyes. His eyes were seemingly never closing. I couldn't see my face. I got tired and my eyes started to close. I burned out the eyelids so I could forever see myself. My new face. Jeff's mother slowly started to back away, seeing that her son was going insane. What's wrong, Mommy? Aren't I beautiful? Yes, son, she said. Yes, you are. Let me go get Daddy so he can see your face. She ran into the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleeve. Honey, get the gun, will you? She stopped as she saw Jeff in the doorway, holding a knife. Mommy, you lied. That's the last thing they hear as Jeff rushes them with the knife, gutting both of them. His brother, Lou, woke up, startled by some noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he just shut his eyes and tried to go back to sleep. As he was on the border of slumber, he got the strange feeling that someone was watching him. He looked up, before Jeff's hand covered his mouth. He slowly raised his knife, ready to plunge into Lou. Lou thrashed here and there, trying to escape Jeff's grip. Shh, Jeff said. Just go to sleep. Well, that's your premiere, guys. That is Jeff the Killer for you. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let's see. Now for my review. Oh god. This story definitely has more errors than I noticed when I first read it. There's also this weird thing going on with the tenses. The tense swaps aren't that constant, but they do pop up occasionally. Sometimes it's in present tense, sometimes it's in past tense. As for the story itself, there seems to be a lot wrong with this story. Okay, first of all, the most obvious flaw with the story is how cartoony all these so-called bullies were. And as they attacked Jeff for the second time, you would think at least an adult would feel authoritative enough to at least attempt to stop the kids, since that's kind of what parents do. Yeah. But before that, when Lou was sent to juvie, you kind of notice that by the time the birthday party comes up, the parents didn't really seem to give a fuck that Jeff was upset, and mainly because Lou just went to juvie, and instead of worrying about that, or at least feeling a bit depressed,
They worry about making an impression at that fucking birthday party of all things. Are they do they really give a fuck about their it's the first clue they don't really give a fuck about their kids. I know there are a lot of bad parents out there, but I don't think a family like that would be this callous towards their kids. Okay, what else? Let me take a look. Also, when Jeff's bandages come off, I know that sometimes when you're under anesthesia, you can get a bit loopy, but do you, would burn victims really exclaim that their face is perfect, even after a bunch of painkillers? You know, you think they'd at least be too sedated to get to care, or a bit shocked but unable to express it. They're not going to exclaim that that their face is perfect. Especially after it gets all leathery like that. Then there is the whole thing about well, well, I know that Jeff somehow snapped after he fought the bullies and stuff, but I'm not really sure a person would react like that still, you know. At least after the fight was over. And let's see. Then there's the fact that Lou was sentenced right as he was arrested. Wouldn't there be like some sort of trial or at least a hearing before he gets sentenced? I mean, I know people tend to go to jail or juvie depending on their age before their trials, but you shouldn't. They shouldn't be listing their sentence right as they're arresting them. Instead, realistically, they will be read their Miranda rights. At least these days. But I'm pretty sure the Miranda thing has been around for decades. So then there's the part where Lou was released. They say that let's see. Okay, so I guess the whole releasing Rue wasn't as unrealistic as I made out to be, because it was witnesses that heard Randy confessing of trying to attack him, before Jeff killed him. Let's see. I know that Randy couldn't verify it because he was already dead, but the weird thing about Randy's death was that he stopped breathing before he stopped moving. That's just really weird to me. When don't people usually, unless they're getting choked, don't usually people stop moving after they stop breathing? Like I said, unless they're holding their breath or getting choked or anything like that. Then there's the obvious flaw of Jeff's self-mutilation. At least about the whole burning his eyelids. They didn't really say what happened to his wounds after he did that to himself, but a lot of people are saying, wondering how Jeff could have burned his eyelids, without burning his eyes, or having all this dust get into his eyes, making him blind and stuff. I can't really help but at least halfway agree with these people. That's for the whole infection on Jeff's permanent smile. Like I said, it doesn't really say how well he took care of those wounds, afterwards.
let's see. And then there's the much talked about part where the mother asks the dad to get the gun instead of trying to find a way to at least trap him so they can take him to a psychiatric ward or something. Because unless he was actually trying to hurt them, there's no reason why. Well, I mean, he did try to hurt them as that part happened, but that didn't really happen until at least when his mom left the bathroom after that little sight. As for the whole Lou getting killed in the end, you can't. It could be interpreted as that being implied, but in the end, all I really know is that Jeff's parents were killed and Lou was at least attacked. Unless it says so in the beginning somewhere. I couldn't really say anything right now. Okay. Then there's the weird issue. The errors besides the tent swaps aren't that obvious, and in fact they're somewhat scattered, unlike most of the crappy pastas I've read. But they do exist. Sometimes there's a spelling error, sometimes it's a punctuation or a grammatical issue. But either way, overall, it's not the worst story I've read, but it is definitely overhyped. I mean, especially getting an 8.7 out of 10 on creepypasta.com. It's like, isn't that a little high? I mean, from what I've read, I'd say it's at best a 4.5 out of 10 rather than an 8.7 out of 10, because there are so many better pastas out there. And if you want to read a story about an unstoppable killer, at least a creepypasta about it, I'd suggest reading Tiki Toby, because other than the repeated error of using breathe instead of breath, it is somewhat decently written, and the background is much more solid. So if you're looking for a killer story, go to Tiki Toby, not Jeff the Killer. I mean, I think the only reason why you should read Jeff the Killer is to figure out your own interpretation of the story. That's about it. I mean, it's not really a good place to go for a good read. Okay. Speaking of overrated creepypastas, in the next episode, I will be reading Laughing Jack. That's right, Laughing Jack, the famous killer clown. As for my next upload, get ready for an all-new episode of the Crappy Pasta Show. This is Gothcat signing out. Thank you and goodbye.